November is Diabetes Awareness Month, if you might remember, and November 14th, today, it's World Diabetes Day, and the 9-year anniversary of when I was diagnosed. So last year I wrote a short poem about what it's like living with diabetes, and this year I decided to do the same. So I hope you enjoy and learn something new. When it comes to talking about my diabetes, a lot of things can go amiss. So I've put together some explanations, and all you have to do is sit tight and listen to this. I have type 1 diabetes. I've steered clear from type 2. What's the difference, you ask? That's one of the things I'm about to tell you. Type 1 is an autoimmune disease. My beta cells decided to resign. So now my pancreas doesn't make insulin, and the amount of sugar in my blood is out of line. Beta cells store and release insulin. Reducing glucose level is insulin's job. But my pancreas is busted. It's just kind of sitting in there in a blob. But I still need to get insulin in me, otherwise my blood sugar would spike. I have to do this through shots. It's not something many people like. I used to do 8 shots a day. I had to give them whenever I ate. But 7 years ago, I got an insulin pump, and now I can keep a cannula in me for 3 days straight. I have to check my blood sugar. I do this with a Lancet device. I check my blood a few times a day, typically 5 times to be precise. I also have a continuous glucose monitor. It's usually stuck in my arm. It shows me patterns of my glucose numbers, and if I'm too low or too high, this will alarm. But I have no other alternative. As of now, there is no cure. Type 1 diabetes affects young and old, and it's a disease that quite a few have to endure. People living with type 2 suffer as well, but type 2 is a whole different story. This disease can be controlled, and they just have to monitor it and take inventory. They have to take time to exercise, they have to watch what they eat, and they may have to take medication, and over time, type 2 diabetes they might defeat. That's because type 2 deals with something separate. Their body is insulin resistant. Sure, they still produce insulin, but their body doesn't process it and it lacks consistency. With type 1s, we don't have this luck. Type 1 is a chronic, a lifelong companion. Management looks different for each person. The differences between yours and mine could be as wide as a canyon. No, I didn't get diabetes because I ate too much. I didn't get it because I was lazy. I got it partly because of genetics, and the other reasons are kind of hazy. It can be triggered by a virus. It can be triggered at any age. Basically, whenever the beta cells decide to pack their bags, that's when diabetes takes center stage. My companion decided to join me at age 12. I got a sports physical to play basketball. I went to the doctor and ended up in the ER. My body itself had partaken in a brawl. Not to mention the psychological effects. Diabetes can do a lot to your brain. I had to learn to be resilient. I've had to learn to dance in the rain. Day to day, diabetes treats me differently. Some days are great. Some days are brutal. Sometimes I boast of pride. Other days, it all seems futile. An emotional roller coaster, a ride of a lifetime. A ride with no escaping, taking its passenger captive in this merciless crime. There is no vacation from diabetes. There is no break. It requires 24/7 supervision, both when I'm asleep and especially when I'm awake. I can't take 5. I will never be able to take a timeout. There is no avoidance of the ramifications I'm talking about. If I do take a timeout, if I do ignore my diabetic obligations, I risk passing out or going into a coma. I risk severe complications. I had no choice in this. My thoughts were not taken into consideration. But I wouldn't trade my experience. I have learned and grown so much in this altercation. I've learned to be compassionate. I've learned to be empathetic. I've learned to count my blessings. And I've definitely learned what it means to be a diabetic. I've learned that when it comes to life, everyone is fighting their own personal wars. I've learned to ask instead of assume. And I've learned to stop keeping score. Life isn't about who has the most. It's not about who is the best. Life is definitely not about comparing, and it's not about who you can or can't impress. Life is about loving God and loving those around you, loving where He has placed you in life, and it's about trusting Him to see you through. And that's what I've learned to do, despite the highs and the lows. Despite the 24/7 round-the-clock care, I've learned to be content wherever the wind blows. So even though it's a pain, and even though sometimes I want to relent, I keep on keeping on, because it's Christ I represent. Over 9 years, I've had the chance to learn a lot. I've learned to live, laugh, and love. I've learned to use this opportunity as I live with the chance to serve my God above. Thank you for watching.